Hi everyone, in this presentation I would like to take you through the details of the internal assessment commentary with a focus on the structure of the commentary. Here are some details of the internal assessment portfolio. The IA portfolio makes 20% of your final IB mark for economics. The portfolio consists of 3 commentaries. The news extract for each commentary should not be published more than 1 year prior to the writing of the commentary. The word count for each internal assessment commentary is 750 words. Each commentary should be based on a different section of the syllabus, for example, microeconomics, macroeconomics, international trade, or economic development. Each commentary is marked according to 5 assessment criteria, and there is 1 criterion for the entire IA portfolio called rubric requirements. The IB Economics Subject Guide in its internal assessment section provides details about what is not included in the word count. You will be informed later on about the presentation of the IA portfolio, but this is just a brief outline. The focus of each commentary is on the links between the article and the economic theory, and the next slides will bring more clarity on this aspect of the commentary. Before you start writing your commentary, you have completed the planning sheet in which you have identified key terms such as market failure, indirect tax, perfectly competitive market, etc. You have also identified appropriate diagrams, appropriate explanation of them, and points of evaluation. Here are some key points to remember. Do not write things that are unrelated to your news extract, as they will not get you marks. Focus on the content of the news extract. Avoid quotes and long introductions. This is not the extended essay based on extensive research and quotes from sources of information. Stay focused on the content of the article and analyze it from the point of view of an economist. Stick with one section of the syllabus, make sure to develop it in depth. For example, if you have started with the topic of market failure, avoid explaining how this may affect the macroeconomy because 750 words are not too many. Here the rule, less is more, is valid. You should focus on 1 or 2 appropriate diagrams, explain them in depth, and apply to the content of the news extract instead of using more than 2 diagrams and mentioning briefly what they illustrate. Focus on evaluating one solution only because you want to discuss it into depth and look at the different impacts certain policy might have, for example. As was already mentioned, there is no need for lengthy introductions. Definitions of each and every term is also not necessary. You only need to use economic terms appropriately to show your understanding of their meaning. I would still recommend that you provide definitions of the major key terms after you have used them for the first time. For example, this article is about market failure. Market failure is this and this. Use economic language throughout the entire commentary. Avoid replacing those terms or general words. You can pause this video and look at the example below, which shows how terms should be defined. The diagrams. In your internal assessment plan, you identified 1 or 2 appropriate diagrams to use in your commentary. Your diagram should include as much information as possible, which means full title of the diagram, for example, the market for oranges in California. Label all lines on the diagram, for example, price, quantity, demand and supply curves for a microeconomics diagram and or any other lines that may be needed. Label all intersections on the diagram with a letter to make it possible to refer to them in your analysis. Shade in and fully label areas on your diagram if needed. For example, consumer and producer surplus, excess demand, etc. Indicate the exact price and quantity if these are included in the news articles with numbers, and if not, label them with P, P1, Q, Q1, etc. Here is an example of a diagram which, at first glance, may look alright, but we want to make this diagram not only alright, but excellent. The title of the diagram was missing and I have added it. Also on the vertical axis, for price of packet of cigarettes there is no currency, and as the news extract is about price of cigarettes in the US, I have added the dollar sign. If it was considering price of cigarettes in China, I would have added yuan. Quantity should have been expressed as thousands per day or dozens per week, depending on the news extract. The intersections were not marked as well, so I added the letters A, B. There should have been a shaded area indicating the social welfare laws like in the small diagram at the bottom right. Including all these details have made the diagram not only alright, but excellent. Step 3 of the commentary is the explanation. Your diagram should be explained fully and in detail. The explanation should be step by step, without assuming that your reader knows anything about economic theory. On the contrary, think of your reader as someone who doesn't know any economics. The example below shows an explanation which has skipped several steps, the one in red, and an explanation which has followed the step-by-step approach, the one in dark blue. The explanation which you should aim at is the one that makes clear reference to the diagram, and this makes it much better. Step 4 refers to the explanation again, but now you need to add depth to your explanation. Explaining the diagram in details is a good start of your analysis. To add further depth to your explanation, you need to explain how the theory reflects or does not reflect what is happening in reality as described in your news article. Keep in mind that this is still not evaluation, but just relating the explanation of the theory to the events of the news extract, how the theory applies to your particular article. Step 5 is evaluation. A good news extract is about an issue or a problem. For example, oranges are too expensive after a drought, soft drinks are causing health problems due to added sugar, and so on. You should evaluate one solution. Sometimes the article mentions several solutions. You have to pick one and can even highlight the paragraph referring to it so the examiner knows which solution you are focusing on. For example, one solution to the high price of oranges may be price controls, so you should evaluate the extent to which price controls might be effective. The solution to the health problems due to added sugar to soft drinks might be introducing indirect taxes on soft drinks considered by the government. If a solution is not mentioned in the article, pick your own, which is relevant and is most likely to work. Remember to use the approaches to evaluation referred to as CLASP and WE steps, and choose at least 3 major points of evaluation. And finally, highlight assumptions behind the theory so that you can explain the limits of the theory. This slide shows the CLASP approach to evaluation. The dictionary defines CLASP as something that holds things together. Spelled with 2 P's, it is an acronym for the 6 types of evaluation that can be used not only for your internal assessment commentaries, but also in your Paper 1 Part B evaluation questions. Take your time to look at these approaches to evaluation. WE steps to evaluation is similar to the CLASP approach to evaluation. When evaluating, you should consider the wider context, the bigger picture, and use it to weigh your arguments. You should consider the efficiency, the equality or equity in terms of impact, the scope, the time, the effectiveness, prioritization, and the scale and magnitude. So take your time to have a look at this type of evaluation. Hope that this video has been useful and you will approach your internal assessment commentary with the necessary competence.